Thank you and hello everyone. Today we are going to have an engaging conversation about digital investment in Thailand and also sharing some ideas about how we can shape the data center playbook to capture this wave of demand. I'm excited to be joined by three industry experts. So we have Mr. Simon, Chief Technology Officer at Evolution Data Center. And we have Mr. Matthew Silvester, Director at Meinhardt, Thailand. And lastly, Kun Prinn Panitchpakdi, Chief Executive Officer at Four Seasons Advisory. So let's get started. I believe like a lot of us today, we are having the same question in mind. So since last year, we have hearing a lot of announcements from major hyperscalers, both from the US and China. They are announcing their plan for Thailand. This kind of signal end user demand in Thailand and trigger investors. So I have a question for Mr. Simon as a regional player. How do you see Thailand compared to other markets in the regions, and what is driving the shift toward Thailand? Is the demand real, and how can Thailand sustain this momentum?
As far as the Thailand market is, we've seen all the announcements. We have BOI up almost on a monthly basis. We've seen a lot of the hyperscale players target Thailand and announce they're moving into Thailand. Microsoft, Amazon, Google, all making big announcements. As far as the region goes, we know Malaysia is big. There's been a bit of a ramp up again in Indonesia. Singapore's a bit stale, obviously, because of the moratorium and amongst other things. But next steps, we see possibly Vietnam. Philippines is not really picking up just yet. So that really does leave Thailand as the real focus for this region at this time. The question about, it's always a difficult one, whether it's real, I guess it depends on what you read. You read the BOI, I don't know, $30 billion or whatever it stands at now. You could go to advisors, all the real estate advisors or some independent platforms. They're showing 5 gigawatt. But then you look at the customer market, and the customer market itself isn't massive. There's one big player, I think we all know, maybe looking at a gigawatt, but makes you wonder where the rest is coming from, whether these are duplicate numbers or whether there is this 5 gigawatt demand or whether realistically it's less than half of that. I guess remains to be seen. But from what we are saying, it's coming. Thailand is happening. I think we just need to re-look at the numbers and really understand from an industry exactly what is real and how to interpret all these announcements, whether they're investment announcements or they are actually megawatt deployment, I think is really, really important.
Yeah, we are seeing the same thing in the market. The number of megawatt is growing a lot. And I think this year we see that AI is reshaping the infrastructure needs. More need of power and more megawatt of capacity in the news right now. So how do you see this AI trend redirecting investments in the region? Is it bringing more or less capital into Thailand?
Again, it's coming. Depends who you speak to. I'm not seeing AI deployments at this time. We're still seeing a lot of cloud, a lot of big cloud. There's not a lot of AI being deployed. There's some companies talking about it, but on the ground, I think you'll find there's little clusters, little pods, but there isn't a large AI deployment in Thailand yet. I don't know who the first one will be. Even the large capacity of 1 to 2 gigawatt, the majority of it is still cloud. It will, again, it'll come. Thailand government's promoting very well the advanced AI and the investment in people and training and bringing everybody up to upskill. But physically, it's not there yet. But it will come in line with the country's ambitions to move to an AI industry.
And I catch something that you say is not there yet because of like we need more promoting profit moments, right? And the policy as well. So turning to Prinn, as you are advising many investors here in Thailand, how do you see the policy and regulation framework at the moment? Is it limiting or supporting the investor to come into Thailand?
Thank you. For those of you who were here last year, you remember, I feel this is like almost like a Bitcoin conference where when Bitcoin was going 20,000, going to 70,000, you get the whole crowd in the room. Except this time, it's real, it's physical, you can feel it, you can touch it, you can know what the real investment is going on. But as you mentioned correctly, policy, regulations, and also rules of law on the ground, local law, are the main obstacles to the real sustainable growth industry. I'll give you an example. When you invest into a country, you want to invest into a country where you can see stability in politics or rules of law. Under General Prayut Chan-o-cha as a prime minister, you saw that there was an executive decree on the Eastern Economic Corridor, the EEC. And the EEC set out very clear guidelines on how and what to do in order to attract long-term new capital investment, new economy businesses, like the data center, the cloud, and various things we're discussing today, the AIs, and various other things. But 10 years on, well, almost 10 years, are we seeing any regulations that are old, that are dinosaurs or ancient, being cut? You use the words regulatory guillotine. In South Korea, the way Korea becomes such an advanced economy, for every one new law being introduced, 2 or 3 old laws are being chopped. You might heard the name Dr. Scott Jacobs, a famous lawyer from America who helped the Korean government improve the efficiency in governments, in corporate efficiency. That has helped Korea become one of the leaders in new technology economy. In Thailand, the same. You want to attract investors who have technological know-how to use our land that are plentiful. There are plenty of land in Thailand, and there's still plenty of labor, although low-skilled labor. But land here is relatively cheap. Electricity costs still very attractive. But when you come here, what do you see? You meet with someone like the authorities, the government officials who looks after the pricing of electricity, or the government who control the approval of the licenses, whether to do with the usage of electricity, the land usage, or the specification of design, architect of the land to become data center. Once you face that obstacle or the delay in timeline to get your project on approval, then there is issues. Where do they go? Remember, this is not in the old day where Thailand has the eastern seaboard. Back in General Prem Tinasulanont, when Thailand found the gas in the Gulf of Thailand, natural gas, and all the foreigners, Japanese especially, come here. Now, yes, the Chinese are here. Americans want to come. There's a few European countries who want to invest in the data center space, Japanese as well. But they have choices. Now, Vietnam is open and very aggressive, Malaysia as well. And even though they're 2 years behind us on the electricity, they will catch up on electricity costs and whatnot in 2 years' time. And what is going to be our edge? The rule of law here. I don't want to mention the word corruption because every government comes in with a mandate to be anti-corruption. Is the corruption system here better? Or is the problem better? I'll let our friends from the non-Thai friend answer this question. The red tapes, the labyrinths that you have to go through. Not only that, the foreign ownership law. If you take Starlink, when Starlink want to come and have transmission line to invest here, does Starlink want to give you all the technology? Of course not. They're happy to have a local partner. They're not going to give you all the technology and their ownership of that technology. So this is the problem that we have to change on the rules of law and regulation.
Yeah, and since you mentioned regulation is something that need to be navigated, and you also mentioned about partnership. So how do you see joint venture partnership between local and foreign happening in Thailand? What is the structure you think is the best?
So you see, I think Thai government, on the government side first and to the private sector side, the government sector is aware that we need to bring more foreign direct investment into Thailand. You've seen that the country has below than average export growth in the last few years. That's led to the below than average GDP growth. And Thailand is an aging population and aging fast. As you all know, we're already growing old before we are rich or before we're making enough income to feed our grandparents or ourselves in the future. In the next 20 years, we will have less population. Therefore, the new S-curve or the new economy like data center and new technology in AI, in cloud, in quantum, in various investment, we need to attract the best talents. But some of the foreigners who live here and work here, like you guys, you live here and work here. Some of the people need to go out every 3 months to get a stamp. You feel like you are a second-class citizen sometimes. Okay, not as much as some country where they might have religious issues on Sharia law and various other related religious law. Here, you don't have that. But foreigners here still have various issues that they can do certain things to get bank lending, to get the loans, to get to travel in and out. So I think there are other countries who would pay for the strong foreign talents to come and live here. So the structure that the government wants, first, they know that human capital is rare. We lack skilled labor. So we want to attract skilled labor into Thailand. We need this. So how do you attract skilled labor to come and live and work here? You have to provide them tax incentive for individuals, income tax exemption or 0% tax in certain zone. For corporates, you need to set a structure of tax where it's front-end loaded, where companies that are investing, you want them to have the tax incentive in the first few years to be early on, not like to spread out, because you want them to be buying the latest chip, the newest technology. That's very expensive to invest. So how do you attract those companies to make that new investment to stay ahead of the game? So the structure to allow the foreigners to live and work here, foreign company to make big long-term investment in Thailand, will need expat law or the law on the คนต่างด้าวเขาเรียกว่าอะไร foreign living here, foreign ownership law need to be changed. On the local side, they already move ahead and form partnership. You heard of the old businessmen like at บ้านฉาง at ฉะเชิงเทรา และคุณไพโรจน์ เปี่ยมพงษ์สาร He's already moved ahead to form partnership with China. And he already brought the Chinese partnership to find a structure that will win-win to get the structure to come in and work. Board of Investment of Thailand, BOI, they know that when the foreign ownership law stuck at the Ministry of Commerce and Ministry of Digital Economy and Ministry of Finance, they're all silo. So they know the problem. They try to split various different ownership of various entities of company, to try to allow some of the subsidiaries to be foreign ownership foreign control, and some are not. They're trying to bypass it. But the way they're going through this still takes step by step, and it's still a little bit too little too late for my liking. So the structure is there. They know what needs to be done. Maybe we need more pressure from the private sector and the operators and the advisors like your company or the legal side, the financial advisor, the investor, to pressure the government a bit more here. Because they need the money, they need the investment, they need to increase the income of the country. So I think it makes sense to a win-win.
Thank you, Prinn. I think we hear a thing that we need to take into consideration here. So lastly, to the project itself. So Mr. Matthew, as someone who is deeply involved in project delivery on multiple data center projects in Thailand, what is the most challenging factor you see developers are facing here, and what is your advice to them?
I think, firstly, to extend what the previous speaker was saying, there's a disconnect between what the BOI would advertise Thailand Limited to the world, what would be advertised, and what actually you get when you come here is there's a disconnect. It's quite difficult for developers, owners, operators to actually access the means to deliver projects here. The BOI promises A, and then you try and go and procure power. It's not so easy. You can't just walk in and say, can I have some power, please? You can't simply say, oh, this land is zoned under X, so I'd like to build a data center here. Just because it's zoned under X, it doesn't mean you can or cannot. It's very difficult to navigate that. And I suppose for people like me working for an engineering consultancy, that's an opportunity because that's our job, to hold the hands of the owners and developers to make this happen for them. But it's not easy to navigate this. Human capital, the skilled resource is not there. I think that's a global issue. It's not just a Thailand issue. The growth of data centers across the world is huge. The amount of skilled people that have experience and capability, the demand far outweighs the availability. So it is difficult. I mean, as a large engineering consultancy, we find it difficult to get work permits for foreigners to come and work here. There are gaps. But, it's not simply a case of you need to pay more or you need to work harder to find the person. A lot of these people do not exist in Thailand. So we need to go overseas to get them, but then we are restricted. And the amount of money, frankly speaking, involved in providing professional services is tiny. It's nitnoy compared to the investment to the country. So that's a barrier to entry for a lot of things. Yeah, I mean, overall, then delivery capacity remains a problem. That's global.
As the facility is becoming larger and more power intensive, and there's a power constraint in the EC, as you mentioned, do you think this is something that can be addressed from the developer side? Like, can something be adjusted, maybe lower the power, or is it something that the government needs to push to have enough capacity to capture this waste?
I think the overall generating capacity is there. It's the distribution. It's not so simple to just make a new power line from A to B. There's lots of things that happen on the way between the power station and the owner's land. You have to have substations. The distribution to getting from A to B, it's not so simple. You can't just turn it on. I think from a developer side, you see some developers coming and they say, we want 1 gigawatt. Yeah, I'm sure you do, but when do you want that? What's your realistic ramp up? That we need it immediately. Like, the power will come, but you have to be reasonable in your expectation of how it will get to you. So from a developer's point of view, if they can have a more realistic realization that you can't just build a gigawatt in 1 year, so you don't need a gigawatt next year. You might need a gigawatt in 5 years. So maybe you need 200, 200, 200. If they approach things with a more realistic expectation, that will help the EGAT, the guys that generate the electricity, and PEA or MEA, the main power distributors. It will help them plan their systems. So it's, it takes time.
Thank you. And Prinn, you have something.
Sorry, I know the time is already up and we're going to the next session, but the last point is on the data sovereignty, because you mentioned about the rule of law and policy. The controversial point on data sovereignty is a key because Thai people are very fickle with the ownership of data. The government knows it. So once the government comes out with a new law in the next 1 year after the new election next year, the civil servants already prepare the law on this data sovereignty. Indonesia is very strong. They want to control their own data. A few other countries, likewise, India as well. This will be a big battleground between the ones who want to make sure that the data stay in our country versus the one who want to be more kind of open, and the ownership of data at the moment, like in Thailand, is already owned by some foreign companies. This will be one big area that you should watch out for and work towards.
Totally agree. So thank you everyone here and all of our speakers. It is incredible insight from you all. I hope everyone here enjoyed the session. Thank you.